You vintage electronic collectors and appreciators. I wonder if any of you know what this sound is. It's called skip. I'm on the CB band right here. I'm not really here to talk about CB radios, but for me, telecommunications started with this stuff back in the 70s with CB radio. And then getting a ham license around 1980. And it was kind of neat. Like, that was our internet. That was what, you get on if you were talking to some people locally and, hey, did you see the hockey game last night, or what do you think of the weather? That was kind of our chat forum. And just don't get me wrong, this is comedy as well as talking about technology. But these are still popular. CB radios and 10-meter export radios. And of course, truckers and heavy equipment operators have them because they're reliable. It doesn't rely on a cell signal or a network or whatever to work on. But here's kind of a story. I've been through a lot. I've been in the telecommunications and electronics business quite a while. And every once in a while lately, I get the look, okay? Somebody sees me with my cell phone, and I use a flip phone like this. This is an 11-year-old Samsung. Works great. All I do is talk and text because, well, I just don't need anything more. In fact, people see me using this and they think I'm some kind of old timer, but they don't realize the irony of the situation. The first 300 BlackBerry smartphones released in Waterloo region, I had one of them. I was on the leading edge for a number of years, and I was one of the first people to have one of these, a Motorola Pocket Classic. And before that, at work, I had actually used bag phones. I had installed back in the day, in the 1986-87 era, you would have a unit in the trunk. You had to burn the EEPROM on it. There was Cantel and Bell Mobility. You put an antenna on the roof, and the handset was on the hump in the vehicle. And the first people to have them were either wealthy business people. You also had people that were, like riding around in a limousine for whatever reason. I remember one guy the first one that I ever installed was in 1987, and it was a locksmith. And to him, he saw a business advantage of having a phone in the vehicle. Somebody could call him and say, I really need you right now, rather than constantly having to go back to the office. He had a CB radio in his unit, but there's, limitations to it. If your base is in one town and the other one is like you're an hour away on the road, it's not going to work. But that was a big deal at the time. And I got to tell you what's an even bigger deal. A bigger deal and a greater leap in technology than anybody that's carrying around the latest iPhone. You think you're pretty boss with that, okay? Or the latest Android. You're like, look at that guy. He's 60 years old or he's 50 years old. He's using an old flip phone. Or somebody's like, oh, they don't have the latest. You don't have a clue what went in to get these working. Let's say I was in telecommunications, and when the towers were built, when the network interface into the existing switching centers, it was such a huge leap in technology. We basically went from relays, vacuum tubes, and all analog to a digital network that could interface with the first analog cell phones. I know that sounds weird. We did that in about 3 years. It was a huge thing, and there's a lot of overtime. Paid very well, but also very stressful. Does anybody remember the sound of one of these starting up? Oh, I used to love that sound. And you know what? It booted up in 2 seconds and it was ready to make a call. You didn't keep it on all the time unless you're expecting a phone call. And if you're going to make a phone call, you pulled over. I remember actually having to take a course that was put on by some people from Motorola, and they talked about using a cell phone, and the whole thing was there's an etiquette. So you receive a call on the highway, you let it to go to voicemail, you pull over safely, you get the voicemail. Well, these days, you know what it's like. People driving down the road, they're shaving with one hand and talking on the phone with the other. You know, it's just unbelievable. But this leap in technology to get to the first AMP system, especially whether it was Canada or the US, or anywhere actually, it was quite a thing because the networks were largely analog, were largely mechanical. It took incredible planning. It was a larger leap than anything that happens today. You know, the leap between one cell phone model and the next generation is a little bit basically not that big a deal. But here's the thing, okay, I'm going to put it in human terms. You're walking around with the latest iPhone, you're in the mall or wherever, somebody might say, oh, that's the iPhone 14 in silver dust metallic. You don't get that much attention. Walking in the same mall back in the 90s, talking on one of these, people thought you're either a big shot or a celebrity. And it's like people would actually stop and ask me, how good is that phone? It's really good. There's a few dead spots in the country. Well, actually, there are more than a few dead spots, but. And to be honest, when smartphones came out, and like I say, I was a very early adopter of smartphones and integrating them into the network, I was like, this is, you know, just adding features onto an existing system. It wasn't like the first cell phone call. It wasn't like the first digital switching office or first toll highway that combined data and telephony. Those were big. That was a big situation. The CCS7 project that merged data and voice traffic into one digital stream, that was huge. But anyway, that's about all I want to say is, so I'm going to maybe walk around one of the local malls with this and just pretend I'm talking to somebody and see if they either lock me up or ask me what this cool item is. You just never know these days, right? Thanks for watching and listening.